I'm Joanne Law, Director of Studies for Mediation Institute and co-founder of Interact Support. I'm on a mission to prevent violence by training and supporting dispute resolution practitioners. Mediation Musings is a series of conversations with mediators and for mediators. So if you're interested in dispute resolution, follow the channel. We're intending to update new recordings each week. Enjoy. Today I'm talking with Sally Curtis about the very important aspect of our businesses, which is networking and marketing and bringing customers to us or clients so that we can provide our dispute resolution services.
Thank you, firstly, very much for agreeing to share your knowledge, particularly around the that connecting with other people that you seem to work in. So, you're known as the connector and marketing problem solver.
Very much so.
What does that mean?
Well, it's actually been interesting because it's actually what my community has called me. So in two ways, I was known as the connector for years, and people would say, go and see Sally, she's a great connector. Which, as you've just said, what does that really mean? And I will say that was a marketing slip up because I couldn't articulate what it was that I actually did. People couldn't explain me other than to say, go and see Sally, she's a great connector. And luckily enough, they've had enough trust, and the people that they've said that to have had enough trust. And yes, people used to come to me. So I used to get a lot of word of mouth business, but they didn't know I don't know what I'm here for, but such and such has told me I need to come and see you because you're a great connector. Don't know what that means, but I'm here. As I got more articulate in what it was that I actually do, so I do connect people and I do solve business growth problems, and I solve problems in general through and with people. So, who do I know that can help me with this? Who do I know that can help me find people? Or who do I know that has influence? And my usual go-to questions. Then in the last few years, the marketing problem solver has been the title that my community has given me. And instead of rebelling against what people were calling me and trying to make up fancy razzle-dazzle names, I decided that it was probably commercially common sense to go with what the market was actually seeing me as, and what it was that I actually did. So that was where the marketing problem solver came in. From a soapbox perspective, I find it interesting they call marketing. I actually do business development, and I happen to be very good at marketing. But the marketing is the business development is actually the actions, which is actually what leads you to being able to having a sales conversation. I think in the last few years, communities haven't wanted to use that dirty word or perceived dirty word of sales. So they've seen me as a marketer, not as a business development person, but I bring the two together to make the sales process easier for an expert and much more congruent.
That's interesting. And I guess the reason that I wanted to have a conversation with you for mediators is that whole part around marketing their practice and business development is often something that they do find a bit yucky. They want to do the work, they want to do the mediation, they want to help people with conflict and resolve disputes, and sometimes getting out there and being known can be challenging for them. So I guess I'd like some of your insights around that. Those sorts of issues as we chat.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's right. That's quite cool. That is the common thing. Very common for women, and very common for anybody that's service driven. Yes. Like they want to be of service to somebody else because they also want to be humble. They don't want to be braggarts. They don't want to be seen as being pushy. They don't want to be too visible. But at the same time, where do you find that balance of humility and commercialization? And commercialization might frighten a few people as well. If I reflect back to my own journey, somebody said to me, does the word discipline excite you or frighten you? Well, now it excites me because I've got systems and processes in place that I can be disciplined around. Whereas previously, someone said discipline to me, I would have been out the door real quick. So that's that same conversation. If I understand and know what I'm really great at and what things I do easily, so this is around knowing who you are really well and knowing what your inner genius is or your effortless spots are. Everyone will do something as it relates to their business that's easy for them to do, but so easy they don't actually realise that it's actually an opportunity. So it's finding out and discovering as an individual, what are you really great at as it relates to your practice, the doing part, but what is it that you do easily? Do you do Facebook stuff really easily? Do you do LinkedIn stuff really easily? And do you actually like talking to people on the phone? What are the elements that you do really easily and enjoy doing? And okay, well, let's now work out how we can do more of those that you find easy, because that's where the leverage is. So that's how you start to create some of those opportunities of just understanding that a bit more.
Yeah, and look, there's some huge opportunities around that for our members, particularly with Mediation Institute, because we're a membership association for mediators and dispute resolution practitioners. So if people can work out, this bit I do really well, but I hate doing that. And they can collaborate, so they do the bit that's effortless for them, for other people as well, and get the other thing done. It can be done on in a I suppose a really collaborative way that particularly those starting out new in business may find financially it's difficult to pay someone to do everything you don't want to do.
Yeah, very much so. I would say I'm more specialised in what I would call local area marketing as opposed to some of the digital channels. I'm very good at some of the digital channels, but the collaborative partnerships, two business owners, one if we go to that's a little bit more extroverted and one that's a little bit more introverted, but they're in the same industry, which means they'd share the same clients. They could very much put an event on together and talk on different topics that they're most passionate about. And then the people in the room would then seek out the person that's relevant to them based on the message that they've shared. If I utilise an example for me, because of the growth that I've had with my business, I've always been the person that's, run the event, hosted the event, checked people off at the beginning, set the room up, made it look nice, done all the environmental engineering. Whereas now, for me, I have to take my own advice. Interesting. And I've got people now that are clients of mine that we work together, but I've got them working collaboratively with me. So for the bigger events that I actually have two of them actually meeting people and checking people off and maybe taking money. So then I can actually concentrate on actually getting to know people and then mixing and matching people and introducing people into each other, because that's what I do really, really well. But if I'm bogged down at the front of the room checking people's names off, I can't do the stuff I'm really great at. For benefit of somebody else. So that's how I've done. It's just little things, but those people add so much value to the experience that then the participants have at an event. And I always suggest to new businesses, find somebody that shares a similar clientele. Don't think competition, think collaboration. You'll work out that there'll be things that you do really well and they do really well, and work out how you can do that together, because that's really where the magic happens, because that's where your word of mouth and the experience and the emotion happens for the participants, but also the word of mouth and the sharing of the stories that helps to really grow your marketing and build the confidence of a new business owner to be visible, to tell their story, to learn what their communities need to hear from them. So instead of having a sales conversation, you're just having a coffee conversation, and they feel very different. To me, selling is a coffee conversation. It's just, you're not. You're helping people make a choice. Am I the right fit for you? Are you the right fit for me? Will this work for us or not? And if not, then let me introduce you to somebody that would be. the right person for you.
Yeah, and look, with the sort of people that I think will be listening to this podcast, although I don't know, a lot of the case it's really business to business that they need to be marketing. Because we're mediators, we can't have that coffee conversation with the client, because then we're likely to not be able to actually do the mediation work. So we need to have the coffee conversation with the client's lawyer or the client's accountant, somebody else that's likely to have the clients that need help with conflict in their lives.
Yeah, but you could certainly showcase two mediators that specialise perhaps in the different style of conversation or the different type of mediation, have an accounting group, or different industries. They could certainly come together and invite some of those people to come along with them, and then the coffee conversation becomes the conversation that the mediator then has with the lawyer at the second stage.
That's right. So definitely running events for the professionals, the organisations in your community is a great way. And the burden of trying to run an event yourself, you don't need to do that. You can get together with some other mediators or some other aligned businesses, or run them for their clients.
Correct.
There's lots you can do.
And if you're working with other people, I think people get invited by events because they think they've got to invite lots of people. You probably really only need to invite 5 or 10, knowing that they're going to come. And then you've got between two of you, if you've invited 10, you've got 20 people in the room, which will probably end up being 15. Yeah. But that's a really good number to have a depth of conversation and understanding and demonstrate that you know what their clients are experiencing and therefore how you can actually help the lawyer firms and those sorts of things.
Oh, you mean they don't have to book out the convention centre?
No, surprise. No, little small intimate groups work really, really well, and people appreciate them because there's a feeling and a difference in connection. They don't feel like a commodity or a sheep that's being bundled into a huge venue, is this going to be worth it for me? They actually feel they really get value from it because somebody's contributing to and understanding what their challenges are with their clients.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a great reframe for people. So, really you're looking, maybe a dozen people at, or so. And, that's what you're targeting rather than looking at it as it's not enough. So, or even less depending on where people are located.
Correct. And webinars are a great way to have, we're using Zoom today, Zoom conversations around and doing a screen share and having two different people having a bit of an interview, but structuring in a way that it's insightful for, again, an invitational to the right lawyers if distance or location for some people is a challenge regionally and those sorts of things. You can create the right environment with some of the digital tools that we've got now. So don't let excuses get in the way because it's just about being face to face with people, whether that's digitally or actually face to face in those small groups to have a deeper conversation.
Yeah, actually that's really interesting because I think you've been working in this space in one shape or form for quite a while. Is that the case?
Yeah, very much so. So I would normally say 10 years, but when I was reflecting for another client earlier when we were having a similar conversation, and I've actually done marketing, business development and events all my life. I just didn't realise I did it. Funny about that. That's that taking your own advice and sort of seeing your own giftedness, because I didn't like when you do it so instinctively, you don't think there's a value to it. So yes, I worked a lot in the personal development industry. I filled a lot of rooms for a lot of the major speakers around Australia and internationally. But even before that, when I was in my youth, I would do little get-togethers. Well, that's actually an event.
So you were the friend that got everyone together?
Yeah, even though I was probably more introverted, it was more a case of if I get them to come round to my house and we do stuff at my house, then, you know, that's easier than me going out of my comfort zone and going round to their house. So there's always been a method in the madness.
Yeah. And look, that's interesting because you know, quite a lot of mediators actually are introverted, or you know, there's a good mix of us all around the place. So any thoughts about that? Is it just get out there and do it, or?
When I talk networking, particularly with some of the startups, which are often scientists for me or engineers, they're very, 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 very introverted and very non-people focused. So at least your clients are much more people focused.
Oh, they're definitely people focused, but they they may not like working the room.
No, that's right. Find a wingman.
Yeah.
You know, the good old Top Gun, find a wingman. Work with your other mediator that you've got the genius stuff to share. So from an event perspective, you're going to work together, but find that person, or that it could be another mediator, or it could be that business person that you know, that it is a little bit more people orientated as far as likes going out and connecting people. And you can tell the people like that, they wear red glasses and they wear red and they're bright and they, you know, you can always hear they're flitting from one person to, you know, you can easily identify them. They're influences of another form. They're what I would classify as energy influences. So they bring some magic in the ability to bring people together and connect people. So find somebody that's like that. Everyone's got one. There's often one person in the family or a client that's a little bit more like that is, and when I say a client or a friend or a colleague that, you know, is a real advocate for who you are or what it is that you do, they'd love to tick people off, or, you know, meet people at the door and then say, oh, Fred, I've just spoken to, he's just come in and he's new and I've met him through here, and he mentioned that he would, you know, they'll join those links, and they'll do that naturally. So find a wing person.
That's great advice. I can see. Can just imagine people thinking, they'll be taking that one there. Yeah. So I'm not sure in your professional career whether you've come across mediation or mediators much or not. But what do you have any thoughts about how we can make use of the skills that mediators have in that whole sales and marketing space?
Yeah, very much. Very much so. So I've come across people that have, I'm going to call them critical conversations or difficult conversations. So speakers that tend to speak around that, probably, and do trainings and those sorts of things. Probably not quite the specific or maybe necessarily the meaty stuff that you do when you're dealing with lawyers and those sorts of things at that sort of what I would call higher or deeper end. But when it comes to them looking, firstly, perhaps for the people that they can help. So there's two different scenarios. I'll go a networking scenario and then I'll look at some of the thought leadership scenario. So majority of people will always look outside of their existing network. They always seem to look for the new. I would challenge people and say, look to your existing networks and have a look about who you've already got around you. And this will take a little bit of doing some defining. So defining who you've already got with you, getting clear on perhaps what your gaps are or who you're next looking for. And then that's how you'll be able to magnify some of those results and find those opportunities for an events perspective. So look to your existing network, find the people that have either been there and done it, so they're a step ahead for you. So they're what we would call an advisor. They've been there and done it. As it relates to the practice and growing a practice, you know, what things have they done? What has worked for them? How have they overcome this problem that you're currently facing? I'd also look for influencers in the industries that you're looking to get into, or industries that are important to you. And then also look for your finders, people that can help you find people that naturally know people. So people like me, which are the finders and influencers. And they're good people to identify, sort of. So look at your network and go, my network is made up of predominantly 3 types of people: finders, advisors, and influencers. Now, some of singular people will marry across a few of those people, but it gives people a little bit of definition and then clarity as to what resources that they actually already have available to them. And when people feel supported and that they've got resources, confidence comes.
Yes.
Yeah. So that helps people move forward.
Yeah,
So
confidence is very, very important, isn't it?
yeah, very much so. And finding some of those people that you could perhaps collaborate with, start a bit of a mastermind, work out, get to know each other, work out what you could actually do. Maybe not dive straight in, but get to know each other a little bit, and then work out, I can really see that you're really good at this, or could we do that? And then defining, who's missing from this mix, and who could we bring in?
Yeah.
So that's sort of from a networking perspective, and does marry into, as it relates to a marketing and business development, is understanding, and often we can't see this for ourselves. So this is where that taking it from that networking and looking at getting key group of people together, and that may only be 3 or 4. It could be 6. Some of my personal masterminds that I'm involved in, it's 3 of us because we're quite polar opposite. And the masterminds that I run are usually about 6 or 8, and then we've got, you've got a mix of different people in there, so you get different people asking different questions.
Yeah.
But when you've understood, you've got people working together, you can then, for the others, we don't tend to identify what we naturally do easily. So if I'm asked a question, if I give an example with my mastermind, which are my speaker buddies, I've got 2 introverts, and I'm the extrovert. So, and they're detail focused and all those sorts of things, which I've learnt to be, but not at the level that they are. And they're very
not your fun place.
Not my fun place. And they're very simple. So they'll ask me a marketing question. I'll go, you just do blah, 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 blah. And I can see their eyes glaze over and roll back in the back of their head.
Yeah.
That's because they don't get it the way I get it. And if they took models or written models or formulas, my eyes do exactly the same thing. And this is that genius. That they have to go, slow down a minute, because we don't get that. But in my mind, I think, well, this is so common sense. This is so easy. Surely everybody does this. Everybody understands that. And it's when you have that epiphany moment, when you can see it as a mediator, you see and read these things in other people, that is often the effortless genius or an area that's of ease for somebody else. So when you're able to see that and have a conversation around that, that's how you then to work out how you can put a collaboration together, because you can actually go, hey, did you know that you said this and this? And this is obviously really easy for you. Tell me more about that. So then you can work out who can do what really easily. And when you identify for yourself things that you do easy, is it easy for you to pick up the phone and have a conversation with somebody? Do you actually like the phone call coming into you, which makes it easy for you? Does making an outbound call or feeling like chasing a call frighten you? Okay, well, if I know that in advance, what can I do that creates an invitation that people come into me? And then working out what business development or marketing actions help support what you do naturally.
Yeah.
So none of this cardboard cutout scenario for everybody. Everybody needs to do this, because fundamentally you can't be the guru at the front of the room that's telling you that, because the guru at the front of the room is gifted in that. It's finding out what you're gifted, what you're gifted at, and what works for you, what is easy for you, what is already giving you results that you might not have realised is actually leverageable if we tweaked it or added a bit more to it.
Yeah, and look, I think that's a really important thing, because the people that are telling you the things that you have to do, it is probably the things that they do easily and works for them, and they're getting results. So they think, you just need to do this and you'll get the same results as me, but you're not necessarily going to be the case, because it's it's a big effort, and we all know if something's a big effort, you may not necessarily do it.
Correct.
Or
And
certainly not with the consistency that you need to.
that's right. That creates what some people call it procrastination. I've tidied it up and call it a pause point. If it causes you a pause point, we know that that's going to slow the next step down. And I'm with clients who are all about what's your next step? What do you know, how quickly can we get you to your next step? So you've got clarity to see the next step. So anytime a pause point comes up, it's key to try and eliminate that. Like a negative conversation, if a negative conversation or a person's view of something's from their perspective is not necessarily the true or the right perspective, what can we do? What can you do to reframe that, as you said, so we keep people moving forward or keep them having a better conversation?
Yeah. Oh, look, it's the same thing that we use in practice. And I guess sometimes people don't necessarily realise that their professional practice, the things that they've got expertise in the work they do, can be applied to getting the work. So it goes across the they can still use the same skills, but just in a slightly different way.
Yeah, very much so. So as an example, as a digital example of that from a business perspective, LinkedIn's becoming an incredibly awesome tool for business-to-business scenarios. And I've been developing it for myself, but doing it with clients, is creating an outreach strategy. So connecting with people as you do, but then building I call it outreach. I'm building a conversation because I'm actually curious about these people. And when you know your industry really well and you know what problems the people that you serve have, you can actually ask a proper question, not a question that feels salesy and slippery. You can ask a meaningful, heartfelt, relevant question to an individual. And when you ask enough of those questions and you've got something to invite them to, like an event that you've got coming up, and that's why, again, events are so important, because you can join the processes up simply. So it's creating a simple process that's easy. Then the whole process is just an invitation. Come and find out a little bit more about me and how I actually do understand you and your industry and your clients, and let me meet you so you can actually ask me some questions. Yeah,
and that exchange of value, which sometimes they may not be a good fit, but there's always going to be something that you can learn. There's always going to be something that you can share. So it works. Well, one of the things I just wanted to go back to that you mentioned about people looking at their own network and identifying the people that might be able to support them. I'm also thinking quite often we think that people know what we do, but they often don't, particularly when it's something like mediation where people really don't know what it is.
Correct. And I think that was my point of at the beginning, was saying that when people talk to me about being a connector, that was because they didn't know what it was that I did. So for me, the way, and that's very critical when it comes to working with referral partners and those sorts of things as well, is we actually need to educate.
Yes.
Firstly, and provide tools to make it easy. And let me explain what I mean by a tool. So if you think of a bio, I have a little A5 sheet that says, this is who Sally is, this is the types of clients she works with, and these are the most commonly asked questions. And it can be anything that's sort of like that. But when I'm meeting people and utilising it in that mastermind, or I'm talking to people about what it is that I do, yes, I will have that conversation with them. But I can actually also email that to them or give them a hard copy and just say, this gives you a bit of an idea of what it is that I do. And you'd be surprised how many people will forward that to their friend.
Yeah.
And say, I've just been speaking to Sally and she's helping me with this, and I think she could probably help you with that problem you spoke to me about at the barbecue, because here's a little bit of information on you. You guys need to connect.
Yeah. Look, absolutely, and that's what I'm always saying to our guys. Have you? I call it their Mediators Bio, but a one-page document that talks about who you are, what you do, and make it really easy for people.
Yeah.
So I know you've got an ebook, Your Brand Identity Secrets. So because we're starting to talk about people's personal brand, I guess. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to communicate in the ebook?
Yeah, very much so. So that sits into the, who are you really? So that's the be you. Be you in either all of the effervescence that you have or the quiet effervescence that you have. Yeah. But that's understanding, who you are, what you're good at, what you like, what you don't like, the clients that you want to work with, just understand how you operate. So if you really don't want to be on Facebook, but you could probably get away with, you'd probably be quite happy working with LinkedIn, or you don't, work out what you do and don't want to do, and then from there, that's how I'd look at, what do I enjoy doing? What can I do? And I'm just going to put a caveat on there. Please do one thing, maybe two things really, really well. Again, you don't have to do everything. If you find that one thing that works for you, again, it's easy. It puts you in an easy place, and then that builds confidence. And then if that's bringing in additional more money and revenue, then that may be something you can then outsource to somebody to do while you do something else. So it's all about those easy steps, not this great big huge dive in and hope.
I'll just jump in there. With LinkedIn. I think it's really important people at least have a basic professional profile there, so that people can actually credential them. Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn's got lots of changes, and I'm doing a few things differently. But at the bare bones minimum, they absolutely must have a LinkedIn. A LinkedIn profile, because LinkedIn's actually now a search engine like Google. So in a lot of cases, if your LinkedIn profile's really tricked up, it'll actually come up before websites now.
Yes.
By having a really good LinkedIn profile that's got a breakdown of your summary, is a little bit like a little mini sales page, and then your experience section is a little bit more, as opposed to saying I've done this job, I've worked here, I've done that. It actually explaining in those areas who are the client clusters that you serve, and how and demonstrating how you understand what their challenges and problems are. Everybody cyber stalks everybody before they meet them. So you have to be, and LinkedIn is the professional tool, and they've got some really big goals as a business that they're wanting to achieve. So definitely, LinkedIn to me is a must. It operates more professionally. It's obviously more of a professional conversation than what I feel Facebook is.
Yes.
And it's an easy platform to interact with the right people and be guarded when you don't want certain people. So you have that, yes, I invite you again into my community, or no, not really.
No, exactly. Yes. There's not a lot of them, but there are a few, people that are completely there for the wrong reason. Can control that.
Yeah.
So sorry I interrupted. It's just, I think it's just such an important thing around the branding. So you talked about people really spending a little bit of time to be themselves, work out who they are, and I agree with you completely, because I think we're in another stage of authenticity. People aren't, they're not looking for impersonal brands. They're looking for what is your personal.
Yeah, who are you really? Demonstrate it, show it. Let me see it, because I've talked about that. In 3 seconds, somebody will get a hinky feeling. So you'll be having a conversation with somebody. It'll feel like it's going really well, and then all of a sudden something will go. And they'll start to get that sort of step back, and that's usually because something you've uncentered, you've got, or something has triggered that you weren't quite truthful, because effectively, as we know, with body language and all of the tone, voice and all the rest of it, your body will dob on you.
Yeah.
So something you didn't believe that you were saying, and therefore your body's gone, oh, you don't believe this. So, and that's triggered that, that hinky feeling for somebody else.
Yeah.
So some of that, one of my mentors years ago said, study yourself 95% of the time and strategy 5% of the time. So if that means doing some profiling tools and understanding those, doing some, one that I found very good was the Strengths Finder to find out what my natural instincts and strengths were. And for me, because I'm not necessarily articulate or academic in that manner, it gave me the articulation that I could then explain to people what it was that I did from my own inner genius. So that I found is a really good tool, and there's so many different ones that are actually out there. So very important to find out what it is that you actually do naturally and instinctively, and then finding out the types of things that you like to do, because if it's easy for you to do, you can create momentum and confidence and move things forward. So that's that around being bold, being you. And the being bold is just do more stuff that you find easy. Don't overcomplicate it. And do that one thing in a really great manner. So,
focus on
focus. Focus and consistency. And then so it's be you, be bold, be brilliant. And then when you've got those two ticking along nicely, your brilliance starts to come out. That's where that people start to go, wow, something's really happening for you. We can see that you're on task. That confidence starts to ooze from us. People can see it. They know, and you start to get those questions, what are you doing differently, or what are you on, because something's changing for you. There's almost that you've fallen in love sort of feelings and visuals, and it's because you've actually fallen in and found yourself. And that is where you then come into that brilliance, is because you're actually doing the stuff that you find easy to do with the people that you want to be doing it with, collaborating with those that you help, you bounce off each other. And that's really where the magic starts to happen.
And I guess as I was listening to you, I'm thinking, well, you're not actually diverting so much energy in trying to put up a facade and be who you think you have to be. So all of that energy can actually be focused in on what you're trying, what you're really working on.
And that you've actually absolutely nailed it. So the clients that I often work with are usually overwhelmed by their marketing, and they've got brain fatigue because of worrying and trying to work out and do stuff that they can't do. And they're just mentally drained. And it usually comes back to, well, let's just simplify this. And let's get rid of
and they give a big sigh and say, oh, thank goodness.
So it's very much giving people permission to go, hey, it does not need to be this complex. It can be really simple, and simple done consistently works. It's when we try to do complex that we procrastinate, that it doesn't get, it's not consistent. Then we start to feel, have that imposter syndrome feeling come across, because we just stood up. And stood out, and oh my God, I didn't do it consistently. Now what will the community think? What will my peers think? Oh my God. And then we go down the rabbit hole as individuals. Whereas in reality, if we just worked out, what we like doing, what really works for us, and did that consistently, it just changes that creates that winning mindset, and then magic happens.
Right. Okay. So when we come across the blog post, 573 things you need to do to get your marketing right, we just keep going.
Absolutely.
Ignore them.
Pick and flick.
No, that sounds great. So look, I know your ebook's available on your website, isn't it? I'll share a link out to that and to your website if people do want to have a look in a greater detail there, or connect with you, which sounds great. So I'm just aware of time. Is there anything, sort of final thoughts, or anything else that you think that people should be thinking about in this whole scope of?
I think particularly this time of year, it's in a lot of cases when people first hear the way I've sort of spoken, it sort of is a little bit different. So my first advice would be, yes, this is giving you permission to stop. Absolutely stop. Take a breath, reevaluate, have a look, do a bit of discovery. And you're better off coming out with a simple plan than sitting in the confusion and wondering. So actually stop, take a breath, have a look at what you do really well and what you really want to be doing, and then create a plan from there. Don't sort of. Yes, I plan 12 months in ahead, but I've had lots of practice at doing a month or 90 days ahead first. Stop and then just do some planning and then stick to a strategy.
Yeah, that's very good advice, and it's a good time. Well, it's always a good time to stop and reflect if what you're doing is stressing you and causing anxiety, because that's not, it's not a strong place for you to be operating from. So it's kind of self-defeating.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like that.
No, that's a really good message. It doesn't have to be like that, because actually we get to control it, don't we?
We do.
It is our life after all.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just somebody just needing some clarity, and that's a lot of I suppose a lot of what I do is just going, okay, well, get rid of this, because that is my gift. I see it. I see the next steps. I see all the clutter, and I can go, well, get rid of that, get rid of this, get rid of this. So if somebody just needs, half an hour or a bit of a conversation to be confident that they're on the right track, then I'm more than happy to do that sort of work. Happy to do it as a Q&A, as a webinar to your community if that helps. But just helping people take that next step is, and clearing the clutter if that's what it takes.
Okay. No, that's great.
Then they can do their magic.
Sounds great, and I'm sure that they would be very interested in a webinar where they've got a chance to have a chat. So what I might do, once we've got the this podcast out, and we're going to be releasing them weekly, so it'll won't be out for a little while, but after that, then maybe we can, I'll get back in contact and see if we can find some time that would be convenient, because I'm sure some of our guys will love to have a chance to ask you questions.
Yeah, a bit of an open mic session. Yeah, happy to do that.
Yeah, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
And thank you for your time.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the podcast all the way to the end. I hope it's given you some food for thought about your marketing efforts. Go to our website, mediationinstitute.edu.au, for the links that we talked about, to the resources Sally mentioned and make sure you share with friends. In fact, why don't you share with friends and then get together and have a chat about how you might be able to collaborate on marketing. And of course, make sure you connect with Sally Curtis.